The evening settled over the neighborhood, casting long shadows across the quiet streets of Portland. I stood in the kitchen, staring out the window at the fading light. The usual hum of life around me faded into a dull murmur, echoing my own sense of isolation. My hands moved mechanically as I prepared dinner, chopping vegetables for a stir-fry that had become a weekly ritual. The familiar scents filled the air, but they did little to lift my spirits. With each slice of the knife, I felt more detached from the world outside. My husband was wrapped up in his work, often returning home late and preoccupied. We shared meals like clockwork but rarely exchanged words that mattered. It was as if we were living parallel lives under one roof, our connection frayed by years of routine and unspoken discontent. As I stirred the vegetables in the pan, a sudden darkness enveloped the house. The lights flickered and then went out completely, leaving me standing alone in the dim glow of twilight. I sighed, feeling an odd mix of annoyance and relief wash over me. The power outage disrupted my mundane routine but also provided an unexpected opportunity for stillness. I lit a few candles scattered around the kitchen, their flickering flames casting dancing shadows on the walls. The warmth from their glow created an intimate atmosphere that contrasted sharply with my earlier feelings of solitude. I took a seat at the table, letting my mind wander as I listened to the soft rustling outside, leaves whispering secrets in the night air. Moments later, there was a knock at the door. My heart raced unexpectedly. It was unusual for anyone to visit unannounced at this hour. I opened it to find my friend's son standing there, his silhouette framed by candlelight behind me. He looked just as surprised to see me as I was to see him. "Hey," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Hi," I replied, unsure how to navigate this unexpected encounter. He stepped inside without waiting for an invitation, his presence filling the space with an energy that felt both foreign and exhilarating. "I saw your lights were out and thought you might need company." I nodded slowly, suddenly aware of how alone I had felt just moments before he arrived. "It's nice to have someone here," I admitted. We settled into conversation easily enough. It felt natural despite our age difference and familial ties. He shared stories about his day at college while I reminisced about my own experiences in those carefree years before marriage and motherhood consumed my life. Laughter punctuated our exchange as we bonded over shared memories and mutual interests, an unguarded moment that felt rare in my otherwise monotonous existence. As we spoke, time slipped away unnoticed until we were enveloped by darkness once more when another candle flickered out. The atmosphere shifted subtly, something charged lingered between us now, a tension that had not been there before. "I should probably head home," he said hesitantly after a long pause filled with unsaid thoughts. "Stay a little longer," I urged without thinking too much about it. He hesitated but eventually sat back down, his gaze lingering on me longer than necessary. A spark ignited within me, a yearning for connection that had been dormant for far too long, and it startled me how easily it bubbled to the surface in this moment of intimacy. We spent hours talking by candlelight until our voices grew softer and more subdued, as if we were sharing secrets meant only for each other's ears. In those fleeting moments of vulnerability, I found myself captivated by him, his laughter infectious and his insights refreshing against my stagnant reality. Then came another knock on the door. This time it was just a gust of wind pushing against it like an unwanted reminder of reality outside our cocooned space. The power returned abruptly with a buzz that filled every corner of my home with light once again, harsh and illuminating against our previously intimate setting, but it also illuminated something else within me, clarity mingled with confusion about what this evening had become. He stood up quickly as if jolted awake from some dream state we had shared together in those hours past dusk. "I should really go now," he said again but with more urgency this time. I nodded reluctantly but could not shake off how much I wanted him to stay, to linger just a bit longer in this moment where everything felt alive again despite its fleeting nature. As he reached for the door handle, he paused and turned back toward me one last time. Can I draw you something? I blinked in surprise. It felt like an odd request yet somehow fitting given our shared experience tonight, a keepsake from this unexpected encounter that would soon dissolve back into mundane reality again. Sure, I replied softly before he disappeared into the night air once more, leaving behind only shadows dancing on walls illuminated by electric light now restored. The next morning brought clarity alongside confusion when I found his drawing resting on my kitchen table, a simple sketch capturing us amidst candlelight laughter frozen in time. A bittersweet reminder of what could have been but never would be fully realized beyond these fleeting shadows cast upon our lives intertwined briefly yet profoundly under darkened skies filled with possibility before dawn broke anew without warning or hesitation toward normalcy once again. The morning light filtered through the kitchen window, illuminating the drawing left behind. I picked it up, tracing the lines with my fingers, feeling a strange mix of nostalgia and guilt. The sketch was simple but poignant, capturing a moment that felt both real and dreamlike. A flicker of warmth spread through me at the memory of our laughter in the dark, yet it was quickly overshadowed by the weight of what had transpired. I placed the drawing back on the table, avoiding its gaze as I busied myself with breakfast preparations. The mundane tasks provided a welcome distraction from my racing thoughts. The smell of coffee brewing filled the air, mingling with the scent of toast. Each sound, the crackle of bread in the toaster, the soft bubbling of water, felt like a reminder of my ordinary life, contrasting sharply with the extraordinary emotions that had stirred within me just hours before. "Mom, what's for breakfast?" My daughter's voice broke through my reverie. I turned to see her rubbing sleep from her eyes, her hair tousled and wild. "Just some toast and eggs," I replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than genuine cheerfulness. As she settled at the table, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something had shifted in me overnight. My heart was still racing from our encounter, his laughter echoing in my mind like a melody I couldn't quite place. But alongside that thrill was an undeniable pang of guilt that gnawed at me. "Did you have a good night?" she asked casually as she poured herself a glass of juice. "Just watched some TV," I said, keeping my tone light while feeling anything but. After breakfast, I busied myself with chores around the house. Dusting shelves and organizing drawers became an exercise in avoidance. Each task was an attempt to drown out thoughts that threatened to spiral into chaos. Yet every corner I turned reminded me of him, the way he leaned against the wall during our whispered conversations or how his eyes sparkled in candlelight. Later that day, while folding laundry in my bedroom, my phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from my friend flashed on the screen. "Let's have lunch tomorrow? It's been too long." I stared at it for a moment, contemplating how to respond without revealing too much about my recent emotional upheaval. The thought of facing her felt daunting. How could I sit across from her and pretend everything was normal? But avoiding her would only raise suspicions. "Sure," I typed back finally, hitting send before second-guessing myself. As evening fell again, shadows crept back into my home, reminders of fleeting moments that lingered at the edges of my mind. The power outage had come and gone like a storm passing through, yet its effects remained palpable within me. I found myself wandering into the living room where dim light flickered from candles set on various surfaces, a makeshift ambience created for comfort but now tinged with complexity. Sitting down on the couch, I pulled out a book but found no words could hold my attention long enough to distract me from what loomed over me, guilt and desire intertwined like vines around each other. The doorbell rang unexpectedly, jolting me from my thoughts. My heart raced as I approached the door. Anticipation mixed with apprehension washed over me as I opened it to reveal him standing there, a silhouette framed by fading daylight. "I thought you might want some company," he said softly, his hands shoved deep into his pockets as if trying to contain whatever emotions swirled within him too. I hesitated for just a moment before stepping aside to let him enter, a decision made more out of longing than logic. The air between us crackled with unspoken words as he took off his shoes at the entrance and followed me into the living room. "I didn't expect to see you again so soon," I murmured awkwardly as we settled onto opposite ends of the couch. "I didn't either," he admitted quietly, glancing around as if taking in every detail, the flickering candles casting dancing shadows across our faces. "We talked about trivial things at first, movies we loved or books we'd read, but beneath those surface conversations lay an undercurrent charged with tension and possibility. As laughter bubbled up between us over shared memories from childhood gatherings at family events hosted by our mutual friends, it became increasingly difficult to ignore what lingered unsaid between us. "I keep thinking about last night," he finally confessed after several moments filled only with silence punctuated by nervous glances exchanged between us. "Me too," I replied instinctively before realizing how vulnerable those words made me feel. The atmosphere shifted palpably, words hung heavily in air thickening with anticipation until they burst forth unbidden. We kissed. His gaze locked onto mine as if searching for confirmation or perhaps permission to explore this burgeoning connection further, a silent agreement forged between us without any need for spoken promises or declarations yet understood implicitly nonetheless. But then reality crashed back down upon us like an unwelcome wave. Guilt surged forth once more alongside fear, a fierce reminder that this path led into shadows fraught with uncertainty and potential consequences we both understood too well yet chose to ignore momentarily in favor of what felt so right at this moment together amidst flickering lights casting warmth around us despite their impermanence looming just beyond sight, waiting patiently outside our fragile bubble filled only by whispers exchanged softly under candlelight flickering gently overhead, illuminating secrets hidden away beneath layers built over years lived apart until now drawn together once more against all odds, defying reason even as doubt crept closer, threatening disruption, poised ready to unravel everything we dared imagine could exist beyond mere fleeting shadows cast upon walls surrounding us here tonight, enveloping everything else outside these four corners where reality held no sway against dreams born anew, ignited within hearts yearning, desperately seeking solace amid uncertainty, faced together unwillingly yet resolutely connected, forevermore bound tightly beneath shared darkness, illuminated briefly only ever so slightly, revealing truth hidden away behind closed doors, waiting patiently until now finally brought forth into light, casting aside fears lurking nearby, waiting patiently just beyond reach, always ready, eager, waiting. And then there came another knock at the door, this time louder than before, shattering our fragile moment into fragments scattered across time, leaving behind echoes reverberating loudly through silence left hanging heavily around us both. The knock at the door startled us both, a sharp intrusion into our fragile cocoon of intimacy. I glanced at him, and for a moment, we shared the same look of panic. The candles flickered, casting nervous shadows on the walls as if they too sensed the tension brewing in the air. He stood up slowly, his expression shifting from surprise to concern. "Should I answer it?" he whispered, glancing back at me. I shook my head, my heart racing. "No, let's just wait." The last thing I wanted was to shatter this moment we had created in the darkness. But with each passing second, the knock grew more insistent, more demanding. Another knock echoed through the house, louder this time. My breath caught in my throat as I thought about who it could be. My friend? Had she come to check on me? The thought sent a wave of guilt crashing over me. Here I was, hiding away in my own home with her son while she might be standing outside wondering what was taking me so long. "Maybe it's nothing," he suggested hesitantly, but even he didn't sound convinced. I felt trapped between two worlds, the one outside that demanded my attention and the one inside that cradled our secret connection. "Just a minute," I called out, trying to sound casual despite the tremor in my voice. The knocking ceased for a moment, but only to be replaced by muffled voices drifting through the door. My heart sank further. It was unmistakably her voice mixed with another. Someone else had joined her. Panic surged within me as I realized how close we were to being discovered. "I should go," he said quietly, stepping back from me as if distancing himself would somehow erase what had happened between us. "No," I insisted urgently. "Stay here." The thought of him leaving filled me with dread. It felt like losing something precious before I had even fully grasped it. But then came another loud knock followed by an urgent call from outside. "Are you okay?" "We're worried." My mind raced as I weighed my options. The festival was happening tonight, an event filled with laughter and music that would draw people out into the streets of our neighborhood, but here I was hiding in darkness, clinging to a boy who wasn't mine. "I can't let her see you," I murmured desperately as fear gripped me tighter than ever before. He nodded slowly but didn't move toward the door. Instead, he stepped closer again until there was barely any space left between us. In that moment, everything else faded away, the knocking, the voices, it all became background noise overshadowed by our shared breath and quickened pulses. And then our lips met, a fleeting connection that held everything unspoken between us: desire, longing, fear of what lay ahead. It felt electric yet achingly fragile, as if we were dancing on a tightrope suspended over uncertainty. Suddenly, there was silence outside. Perhaps they had given up or decided to leave after all. We pulled apart slightly but remained close enough that our foreheads touched gently, a shared moment of vulnerability where everything felt impossibly clear yet terrifyingly uncertain. "What do we do now?" he asked softly, searching my eyes for answers I didn't have. "I don't know," I admitted honestly. "But we can't let them find you here." He took a step back reluctantly but still lingered close enough for warmth to radiate between us like an unbreakable thread binding us together despite everything else threatening to pull us apart. Before either of us could say anything more or contemplate what lay ahead further than this momentary escape from reality, another knock broke through, this one accompanied by laughter and chatter drifting through the air like a distant melody calling us back to life outside these walls. "Let's just act normal," I suggested quickly as adrenaline surged through me again. It felt surreal how quickly things shifted from intimate closeness to impending chaos looming just beyond our door. He nodded again and moved toward a nearby chair where his jacket lay draped carelessly across its backrest, the remnants of our stolen time together still lingering heavily in the air around us like smoke refusing to dissipate completely no matter how hard we tried to breathe freely once more. As he slipped into his jacket and straightened himself out nervously while glancing at me every few seconds as if seeking reassurance that everything would somehow be all right despite all odds stacked against us, I couldn't shake off an unsettling feeling creeping into my chest, urging caution against whatever awaited beyond those closed doors, waiting patiently just outside, readying themselves for whatever consequences might follow next. "Hey! Are you coming?" My friend's voice rang out again, louder this time, a reminder of reality pressing down upon us both like an anchor threatening to drag us under where secrets could easily drown without anyone ever knowing they existed at all. With one last look exchanged between us, a silent promise forged amidst uncertainty, I opened the door slowly, revealing bright lights streaming in, illuminating everything around while casting shadows behind where moments shared lingered, still hidden away beneath layers of guilt, waiting patiently until now finally brought forth into light, casting aside fears, lurking nearby, waiting patiently just beyond reach, always ready, eager, waiting. The festival buzzed with life beyond. People danced and laughed freely under strings of twinkling lights illuminating their joy against night's canvas painted deep indigo blue, a stark contrast against what lay hidden within these walls where whispers hung heavily, lingering, still awaiting their turn, finally breaking free from confinement holding them captive until now. "We thought you'd gotten lost," she exclaimed cheerfully, stepping inside without hesitation while her eyes scanned over both of us, curiously searching for signs unnoticed before returning quickly back toward excitement awaiting her just outside, beckoning invitingly, promising distraction from whatever lingered behind closed doors, threatening revelation. "Oh no. Just taking care of some things," I replied hastily, forcing myself into casualness though every word felt heavy, laden with unspoken truths begging release, desperately seeking validation amidst chaos swirling around, threatening everything we dared imagine could exist beyond mere fleeting shadows. cast upon walls surrounding us here tonight, enveloping everything else outside these four corners where reality held no sway against dreams born anew, ignited within hearts yearning, desperately seeking solace amid uncertainty, faced together, unwillingly yet resolutely connected, forevermore bound tightly beneath shared darkness, illuminated briefly, only ever so slightly, revealing truth hidden away behind closed doors, waiting patiently until now finally brought forth into light, casting aside fears lurking nearby, waiting patiently just beyond reach, always ready, eager, waiting. As laughter erupted once more, filling spaces left empty, moments before drawing attention away from whatever unsaid lingered still between breaths exchanged earlier, I couldn't help but glance back toward him, catching his eye for just an instant before turning away hastily, forcing myself not to dwell too deeply upon implications woven intricately throughout fabric, connecting lives entwined together even when separated by distance surrounding them, both physically yet emotionally tied together. Forevermore bound tightly beneath shared darkness, illuminated briefly, only ever so slightly, revealing truth hidden away behind closed doors, waiting patiently until now finally brought forth into light, casting aside fears lurking nearby, waiting patiently just beyond reach, always ready, eager, waiting. The evening air carried a chill as I sat on the couch, flickering candlelight casting playful shadows across the walls. The power outage had turned my home into a sanctuary of intimacy, a stark contrast to the loneliness that often enveloped me. I could hear him moving about in the kitchen, the soft clatter of dishes punctuating the stillness. Each sound sent a ripple through my thoughts, reminding me of our secret. "Do you think it'll come back soon?" he asked, his voice breaking through my reverie. "Maybe," I replied, forcing a lightness into my tone. "But I don't mind this too much." He appeared in the doorway, his silhouette framed by the dim glow of the candles. There was something magnetic about him that pulled me closer, an energy that felt both exhilarating and dangerous. We had spent countless hours together in this house, yet tonight felt different. There was an urgency to our connection that simmered just beneath the surface. As he approached, I caught a glimpse of vulnerability in his eyes. "I like it too," he said softly, settling beside me on the couch. "It feels special." The weight of our situation pressed down on me like an anchor. My heart raced as I thought about my marriage, the years spent building a life that now felt hollow and unfulfilling. How had I allowed myself to drift so far from what once brought me joy? The flickering flames danced between us, illuminating unspoken feelings swirling in the air. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like if things were different?" he asked suddenly, his gaze searching mine. "What do you mean?" He hesitated before answering, his brow furrowing slightly. "You know, if we didn't have to hide." I swallowed hard, grappling with his words. The reality of our situation loomed large. We were bound by secrecy and guilt, yet here we were sharing this stolen moment as if nothing else mattered. "Sometimes," I admitted quietly. He leaned closer, inches away now, and I could feel warmth radiating off him like a beacon in this darkened room. "I think about it all the time," he confessed. My breath caught in my throat as he reached for my hand, his fingers brushing against mine, igniting something deep within me. We spent the night together, wrapped in conversation and laughter that seemed to erase any trace of doubt lingering at the edges of my mind. As hours slipped by unnoticed, we shared stories about our lives, his dreams for the future and my regrets from years past, and with each passing moment, our bond deepened further beyond what either of us had anticipated. In those intimate exchanges under candlelight, time lost its meaning. All that existed was this fragile connection between two souls seeking solace from their respective realities. Yet even amidst laughter and shared stories lay an undercurrent of tension, a reminder that dawn would eventually break and with it bring harsh truths we both tried to ignore. Just as I began to lose myself completely in this newfound intimacy, a sudden knock at the door shattered our cocoon of secrecy like glass breaking against stone. My heart raced as panic coursed through me. Who could possibly be visiting at this hour? "Stay here," I whispered urgently before rising from the couch. He nodded but looked apprehensive as I moved toward the door. My mind raced with possibilities. Could it be a neighbor checking on us? Or worse yet, my friend? I opened the door cautiously only to find her standing there with an expression that mixed concern and confusion etched across her features. "Oh. You're home," she said awkwardly, glancing past me into the dimly lit living room where he remained hidden behind shadows on the couch. "Yes," I replied quickly, forcing a smile even though dread pooled in my stomach. "Just dealing with the outage. I thought you might want some company." She stepped inside without waiting for an invitation. Her presence filled every corner of what had become our sacred space. An awkward silence stretched between us as she surveyed my home, her gaze lingering just long enough on him before darting back to me again like an unspoken question hanging heavily in the air. "Would you like some tea?" I offered lamely while trying desperately to regain composure amidst chaos unraveling silently around us. "That would be nice," she said slowly, but her eyes narrowed slightly as if sensing something amiss despite her casual demeanor. I turned back toward him briefly. He remained still on the couch watching everything unfold with wary eyes reflecting uncertainty mirrored within myself, a silent agreement passing between us acknowledging how precarious our situation had become so quickly. As I busied myself preparing tea in an effort to distract from mounting tension radiating throughout every inch of space around us, thoughts swirled chaotically through my mind weighing heavily upon heart already burdened by guilt over choices made thus far. Was it worth risking everything for fleeting moments filled with passion? Minutes passed slowly while sipping tea together became increasingly strained until finally she excused herself after polite conversation began feeling forced rather than organic. A relief washing over me once she left, leaving behind only echoes resonating throughout empty rooms, reminding us both how fragile secrets truly are when exposed beneath harsh light shining brightly upon them, revealing truths lurking just below surface waiting patiently, until now finally brought forth into light casting aside fears lurking nearby waiting patiently just beyond reach, always ready eager waiting. After she departed, silence enveloped us once more. A heavy blanket draped across shoulders laden down by unspoken words left hanging between breaths exchanged earlier, now fraught with implications woven intricately throughout fabric connecting lives entwined together even when separated by distance surrounding them, both physically yet emotionally tied together forevermore, bound tightly beneath shared darkness illuminated briefly only ever so slightly, revealing truth hidden away behind closed doors waiting patiently until now finally brought forth into light, casting aside fears lurking nearby waiting patiently just beyond reach, always ready eager waiting. "What do we do now?" he asked softly, breaking through silence wrapping tightly around both hearts beating erratically within, chests pounding against walls built high, shielding vulnerability buried deep down inside where fear lurked silently threatening destruction should any cracks appear, allowing truths hidden away beneath layers upon layers built carefully over years spent pretending everything was fine when clearly nothing ever truly was. "I don't know," I admitted honestly, feeling weight pressing down heavier than before, threatening suffocation should choices remain unmade, leaving paths unexplored leading nowhere but further into darkness where shadows danced mockingly around corners whispering secrets meant only for those brave enough to venture forth, daring fate itself, challenging boundaries set long ago by choices made perhaps unwisely a long way leading here today, standing upon precipice staring into abyss wondering whether leap would bring liberation or simply plunge deeper still into chaos, spiraling endlessly downward, forevermore lost without hope, finding solace amidst turmoil surrounding lives intertwined, forevermore bound tightly beneath shared darkness illuminated briefly only ever so slightly, revealing truth hidden away behind closed doors waiting patiently until now finally brought forth into light, casting aside fears lurking nearby waiting patiently just beyond reach, always ready eager waiting. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows across the room where I lay. The remnants of last night lingered in the air, a bittersweet reminder of what had transpired. I turned to see the empty space beside me, a stark contrast to the warmth that had enveloped us just hours before. The drawing he left behind rested on the bedside table, its lines capturing a moment that felt both fleeting and eternal. I picked it up, tracing my fingers over the delicate strokes. It depicted us, two figures entwined under an expanse of stars, a world we had created in our secret moments. My heart twisted at the thought of him gone, leaving behind only this piece of art and a whirlwind of emotions that threatened to consume me. As I moved through my morning routine, the normalcy of my life felt jarring. The coffee brewed, filling the kitchen with its rich aroma, but it did little to soothe the turmoil brewing inside me. My husband's voice echoed from downstairs, his mundane chatter about plans for the day cutting through my thoughts like a knife. Each word reminded me of my reality, a life filled with obligations and expectations that felt increasingly suffocating. I forced myself to engage as he entered the kitchen. "Good morning," I said, trying to mask my inner conflict behind a smile. "Morning. Big day today," he replied enthusiastically. "The festival is starting this evening. Are you excited?" Excited? The thought of mingling with neighbors and friends felt hollow compared to what I had experienced in those stolen moments. "Sure," I managed to say, pouring coffee into 2 mugs while attempting to ignore the gnawing guilt creeping back in. "Maybe we can grab lunch at that new cafe downtown afterward," he suggested. The invitation hung in the air like an unwelcome guest. "Sounds good," I replied mechanically, feeling a sense of dread wash over me as I imagined being surrounded by laughter and joy while feeling so disconnected inside. After breakfast, I busied myself with chores around the house, dusting surfaces and folding laundry, anything to keep my mind occupied. Yet every time I caught sight of the drawing tucked away on the table, memories flooded back unbidden, his laughter echoing in candlelight, our whispered secrets shared under dimmed lights during that power outage when everything changed. Just as I began to lose myself in thought again, my husband walked into the room with an envelope in hand. "You got some mail," he said casually. I took it from him absently and recognized it immediately, an old letter from years ago, a love note exchanged when we were still young and hopeful about our future together. My heart raced as I unfolded it carefully. Each word was like a ghost from our past, stirring emotions long buried beneath layers of daily life. "I remember this," I said softly, half lost in reverie as memories washed over me, the excitement of young love tinged with innocence and dreams for tomorrow. "Ah yes. You always kept that one." He chuckled lightly but didn't seem to notice how deeply it affected me now. As I read through its familiar lines, promises made under starlit skies, I felt something shift within me. Doubts began creeping back into my mind about what was happening between us now, the son of my friend who had awakened desires long thought dormant within me. Would this fleeting connection overshadow everything we built together? Suddenly overwhelmed by conflicting emotions swirling around inside me like a tempest threatening to break free at any moment, I excused myself from breakfast duties and retreated into our bedroom once more, my sanctuary amid chaos where thoughts could roam free without judgment or consequence. I sat on the edge of our bed clutching that letter tightly until its edges crumpled beneath my fingers, a tangible representation not only of nostalgia but also regret for choices made or unmade along this winding path called life. What if this was just an escape? A fleeting shadow dancing across my heart while real life awaited patiently outside these 4 walls? My phone buzzed unexpectedly on the nightstand, breaking through contemplation's grip. Glancing at it revealed his name lighting up screen, a message sent moments ago igniting hope yet dread simultaneously within me. "Can we meet? Need to talk." An urgency laced through those words sent chills down my spine. What could possibly warrant such a request? Did he sense something shifting between us two? I hesitated before typing back, "When?" His reply was quick, "After lunch?" A knot formed in my stomach as conflicting desires battled within. Should I risk everything for another meeting? Or would this be another step toward unraveling all that remained intact in my life? I took a deep breath, trying desperately to find clarity amidst chaos swirling around me, when footsteps approached once more, signaling impending reality returning once again, demanding attention away from distractions, beckoning ever closer towards temptation, lurking just beyond reach, waiting patiently. "Hey. You ready?" My husband's voice broke through once again, pulling me back into present reality where responsibilities awaited, eagerly beckoning forth like sirens, calling sailors towards rocky shores, promising adventure yet danger intertwined intricately beneath surface, obscured beyond sight, hidden just below waves crashing relentlessly against fragile hulls, threatening destruction should course remain unaltered. "Yeah. Just give me a moment." As we headed out together toward festival festivities awaiting us outside those doors leading into vibrant streets alive with sounds, laughter mingling, joyfully filling air surrounding us, completely unaware, lurking shadows waiting patiently just beyond reach, ready, eager, poised for next chapter unfolding ahead. The streets of the festival buzzed with life, a stark contrast to the turmoil swirling within me. I stood beside him, feeling the warmth of his presence against the cool evening air. Yet, an unsettling weight clung to my chest. His excitement was palpable as we navigated through crowds, laughter echoing around us like a distant melody. But in the back of my mind, I recalled his words from earlier: he planned to leave town soon. "Are you sure about this?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady amidst the noise. He paused, turning to face me. "I have to go. It's time for something new." His eyes held a mixture of determination and sadness that mirrored my own feelings. I wanted to scream at him for even considering it. How could he think about leaving when everything between us felt so unfinished? The thrill of our secret relationship had ignited something long dormant within me, yet here we were, on the brink of losing it all. "Maybe we could figure something out," I suggested hesitantly, my heart racing at the thought of him walking away. He shook his head slowly. "You know how complicated this is." His words stung like a sharp wind, cutting through layers of warmth. Complicated didn't begin to cover it. It was a tangled web of emotions and choices that had ensnared us both. As we moved deeper into the festival, vibrant stalls filled with colorful crafts and local delicacies surrounded us. The smell of roasted corn wafted through the air, mingling with laughter and music from nearby performers. For a moment, I tried to immerse myself in the atmosphere, but beneath the surface lay an undercurrent of despair that threatened to pull me under. "Look at that," he said suddenly, pointing toward a booth adorned with handmade jewelry glinting under fairy lights. I forced a smile as we approached, but my thoughts were elsewhere. What would happen if he left? Would I return to my mundane life filled with unspoken regrets? "Do you want something?" he asked casually as he examined a necklace. "No," I replied too quickly. "I'm fine." My voice felt hollow even as I spoke. We wandered through the crowd for what felt like hours, yet every moment was tinged with urgency and unspoken words hanging heavily between us. Each laugh from passers-by felt like a reminder of what I stood to lose, the connection we had forged in stolen moments and whispered secrets. Finally, we found ourselves on a quieter street corner away from the bustling crowd. The distant sounds faded into a muffled background hum as we stood side by side beneath strings of twinkling lights draped overhead. "I don't want this to end," I admitted softly, breaking our silence. He turned toward me, his expression serious now. "Neither do I." The honesty in his gaze sent shivers down my spine. This wasn't just about desire, it was about understanding each other in ways no one else could comprehend. But reality loomed over us like an ominous cloud. "What if you stay?" My voice wavered slightly as hope flickered within me. "I can't." His tone was resolute yet tinged with regret. "I have responsibilities." Responsibilities, an unyielding word that echoed in my mind like an anchor weighing me down. My heart raced at the thought of what lay ahead if he followed through with his plans. "Can't we talk about it?" I pressed on desperately, searching for any glimmer of possibility amidst our tangled emotions. He hesitated before replying, "We can talk, but what good will it do?" Before I could respond, he stepped closer and took my hands in his. Warmth radiated from him like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. In that momentary embrace, vulnerability washed over us both. There was no pretense or obligation, just two souls seeking solace in each other's company amidst chaos. "We can find a way," I whispered fiercely against rising doubts threatening to drown our fragile connection. But then came silence, a heavy pause where our breaths intertwined yet remained separated by an invisible chasm filled with uncertainty and fear of what lay ahead once night fell over Portland's streets again. "I wish things were different," he murmured finally before releasing my hands slowly as if letting go meant losing everything we had shared thus far. A pang shot through me at his admission. Longing mixed with despair tightened its grip around my heart like vines choking out light from within. A stark reminder that fleeting moments often leave behind shadows long after they fade away into darkness. "We should get back," he said abruptly after another beat passed between us, a suggestion laced with finality that echoed painfully against walls built by unsaid words lingering just out of reach. Nodding numbly while forcing myself forward felt akin to walking through quicksand. Each step heavier than the last as reality loomed ever closer around us, both threatening to engulf everything once brightened by stolen kisses shared under candlelight during power outages, now replaced by harsh truths pulling apart fragile connections formed amidst flickering shadows cast upon lives lived too cautiously for too long. Our return journey felt endless. Laughter faded into whispers lost among crowds celebrating life, while sorrow enveloped those caught in their own private battles waged silently behind closed doors, left ajar for fleeting moments shared only between two souls yearning for something they couldn't quite define, yet desperately needed nonetheless. Eventually reaching familiar territory marked by memories both cherished and burdened by guilt, the door leading back home loomed before us like an entrance into another world altogether. A realm filled once again by expectations unmet, overshadowing desires awakened anew. "I guess this is it," he said quietly, standing just outside threshold separating two lives forever changed since first crossing paths during power outage, igniting flames long extinguished buried deep within hearts yearning for more than mere existence. Before stepping away completely into darkness beyond reach, he turned back one last time, catching me off guard, watching carefully as if searching for answers hidden behind layers built over years spent avoiding truths too painful to confront alone. Then without warning, he reached into pocket, retrieving small piece paper, sketching quickly across surface, revealing artistry born from moments shared together, captured perfectly despite chaos surrounding everything else, fading slowly away, leaving only bittersweet memory lingering behind, now etched forever into fabric woven tightly between two hearts entwined briefly before parting ways. With trembling hands, I took drawing, feeling weight settle heavily upon chest, reminding me all too clearly how fleeting these shadows truly are. As he disappeared around corner leading further away, I stood alone, grappling silently against reality unfolding before eyes wide open yet unwilling accept consequences looming ahead. The drawing lay heavy in my hands, a bittersweet reminder of the fleeting moments we shared. The soft strokes of pencil captured his essence, yet it also reflected the weight of unspoken words and unresolved feelings. I stood there, grappling with the reality that had unfolded. How could something so beautiful come from such a complicated place? As I turned to leave, the quiet of the house enveloped me like a shroud. The power outage had returned everything to a stillness that felt almost oppressive. I moved through the dimly lit rooms, each shadow whispering memories of our time together. My heart raced with confusion and longing, battling against the nagging guilt that clawed at my insides. The next morning brought an unexpected visit from my friend. She arrived with her usual cheerfulness, oblivious to the storm brewing within me. "I brought you some pastries from that new bakery downtown," she said, her voice brightening the room. "Thank you," I replied, forcing a smile while my mind was elsewhere. The drawing remained hidden in my pocket, a secret I couldn't share. We settled at the kitchen table, steam rising from mugs of coffee as we chatted about mundane topics, gardening tips and neighborhood gossip. Yet beneath her laughter and light conversation was an undercurrent of tension that made me uneasy. "Have you seen much of my son lately?" she asked casually, but there was an edge to her tone. I hesitated before answering. "Not really," I said carefully. "Just during the power outage." Her eyes narrowed slightly as if she were reading between lines I hadn't written aloud. "He's been busy with school and work," she continued, "but he mentioned he enjoyed your company." A lump formed in my throat. I could only nod in response. The weight of her words pressed down on me like an anchor threatening to pull me under. Later that day, as I washed dishes, my hands submerged in warm water, I replayed our conversation in my mind. Guilt washed over me like a wave crashing against rocks. How could I face her knowing what had transpired? My heart raced at the thought of being discovered. That evening brought another power outage, this time unplanned, and with it came an invitation for solitude wrapped in darkness once more. Candles flickered to life around me as shadows danced on the walls, igniting memories that were both comforting and haunting. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, a sound so unexpected it sent shivers down my spine. My heart raced as I opened it to find him standing there, just like before but different somehow, more vulnerable yet eager. "I thought you might want some company," he said softly. I stepped aside to let him in, feeling an electric charge fill the space between us as he crossed over the threshold. The air grew thick with unspoken tension as we settled into our familiar rhythm amidst flickering candlelight. "I've been thinking about our last moment together," he admitted quietly. My breath caught in my throat, memories flooded back, the warmth of his touch and the softness of his voice lingered like echoes in a hollow chamber within me. "Me too," I managed to say, feeling exposed under his gaze. As we spoke about everything and nothing, our lives intertwined yet separate, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something had changed between us since our last encounter. There was an urgency now. Perhaps it was born out of fear or realization that time was slipping away. Then came another revelation, a confession that shattered whatever illusions lingered between us. "I think I have feelings for someone else," he said suddenly, his eyes searching mine for understanding. The words struck deep, they were both unexpected and piercingly clear. A part of me felt relief mixed with despair, relief because perhaps this meant our connection was never meant to be more than fleeting shadows, despair because those shadows had become so meaningful to me. "What do you mean?" My voice trembled slightly as disbelief coursed through me. He looked away for a moment before meeting my gaze again. "It's complicated, but it's someone from school." A knot twisted painfully inside me as I processed this new information. The very foundation upon which our relationship had been built began crumbling beneath us like dry leaves underfoot. "I didn't know," my voice faltered as uncertainty filled every crevice left unguarded by hope. "I didn't want you to feel pressured or anything," he replied earnestly but hesitantly stepped back from our closeness, a distance growing larger than physical space could account for. In that moment, clarity washed over me like cold water splashing against skin. This wasn't just about us anymore. It was about choices made and paths taken that would ultimately lead us away from each other rather than toward any semblance of happiness or fulfillment we sought together amidst stolen moments cloaked under darkness. The evening wore on awkwardly after his admission. Words became scarce as silence filled gaps where laughter once thrived brightly between us, a stark reminder that nothing lasts forever. Even those fleeting shadows cast by candlelight flickering against walls lined with memories shared only between two souls who dared venture into forbidden territory only to find themselves lost a long way homeward again. Eventually, he stood at the door readying himself to leave. Tension hung thick in air surrounding us both like fog rolling through streets outside, heavy yet weightless all at once, a bittersweet farewell lingering just beyond reach. "Take care," he said softly before stepping out into night without looking back, leaving behind not just shadows but echoes reverberating within heart, reminders etched deeply onto spirit evermore. Alone again amidst darkness creeping back inside house, I sank onto couch clutching drawing tightly against chest feeling its weight settle heavily upon soul reminding me all too clearly how fleeting these shadows truly are. The drawing lay cradled in my hands, a simple sketch of two figures intertwined beneath a canopy of stars. It captured the essence of our fleeting moments together, a bittersweet reminder of what had been and what could never be. I traced the lines with my fingers, each stroke igniting memories of laughter and whispered secrets shared in the dim candlelight. Yet, as I sat alone in the darkened living room, the weight of solitude pressed heavily against my chest. The power outage had returned to its usual hum, but this time it felt different. The darkness was no longer an unexpected visitor, it was a familiar companion that echoed my inner turmoil. I thought about how quickly everything had unraveled, how one night had transformed into a whirlwind of emotions that left me both exhilarated and terrified. He had walked out into the night without so much as a backward glance, leaving me to grapple with the reality that our connection was bound to remain hidden. I stood up and moved toward the window, pulling back the curtain just enough to peer into the street below. The neighborhood was quiet, save for the occasional rustle of leaves in the gentle breeze. I could see faint lights flickering from nearby houses where families gathered together, their laughter spilling into the night air like music, a stark contrast to my own silence. A pang of longing shot through me as I thought about how distant I felt from those joyful sounds. What am I doing? I whispered to myself, my voice barely audible over the whispering wind. The question hung in the air like an uninvited guest, demanding an answer that eluded me. My heart raced at the thought of facing my friend again, knowing she remained blissfully unaware of what had transpired between her son and me. Guilt gnawed at me relentlessly. It felt as though each stolen moment had come at a cost too high to bear. I turned back toward the couch and sank down again, clutching the drawing tightly against my chest as if it were a lifeline. Each line on that page told a story, our story, of shared vulnerabilities and fleeting touches that ignited something deep within me. But now it felt like a cruel joke played by fate, a glimpse into something beautiful that was never meant to last. As I sat there lost in thought, memories flooded back, days spent at local festivals where we wandered through vibrant stalls filled with handmade crafts and delicious food. The way he'd looked at me while we sampled artisan cheeses or laughed over spilled drinks made everything else fade away. Those moments felt alive now, but were tainted by reality's harsh light. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door that jolted me from my reverie. My heart raced again as panic surged through me. Who could it be? My husband? My friend? Or perhaps someone else entirely? Steeling myself against whatever awaited outside, I approached cautiously and peered through the peephole. To my surprise, it was him, his silhouette framed by moonlight filtering through trees lining our street. A mix of dread and anticipation washed over me as I hesitated before opening the door. What could he possibly want now? Hadn't he already made his choice when he left? With trembling hands, I turned the knob and pulled open the door just enough to see his face clearly illuminated by soft moonlight, a face etched with concern yet determination. I needed to talk, he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper but filled with urgency. Now? I replied incredulously, every fiber of my being screamed for him to leave before someone saw him here. Yes. He stepped closer until our faces were mere inches apart. I could feel his breath mingling with mine, a reminder of nights spent tangled together in warmth amidst shadows. What do you want? My voice came out sharper than intended as confusion clouded my mind. I can't just walk away, he said firmly yet gently. His eyes searched mine for understanding or perhaps forgiveness. Why not? The question slipped out before I could stop myself. Part of me wanted him to leave while another part craved this conversation more than anything else. Because, he paused for what felt like an eternity before continuing. Because you mean something to me. His words hung between us like fragile glass ready to shatter under pressure. they carried both promise and peril wrapped tightly together in their simplicity. But this isn't right, I stammered, glancing behind him nervously toward our quiet street where shadows danced playfully under flickering streetlights, reminders that life continued outside our secret world. I know, he replied earnestly, frustration mingled with desperation etched across his features as if battling unseen demons within himself too. But we can't just pretend nothing happened. I opened my mouth to respond but found no words would come forth, only silence lingered heavily around us like an unwelcome shroud enveloping all possibilities until finally breaking free from its grasp when he reached out hesitantly towards me once more. Then came another knock on my door, more insistent this time, as if fate itself demanded attention once again. My breath caught in my throat as dread settled deep within. Whoever stood outside now threatened everything we'd built during those stolen moments together, the very foundation upon which our fragile connection rested precariously balanced between desire and duty. Please, he urged quietly while glancing over his shoulder nervously before locking eyes with mine again, resolutely determined despite uncertainty swirling around us both like autumn leaves caught up in gusty winds seeking their final resting place far away from here. Just tell me you want this too. The second knock echoed louder, still reverberating within walls closing around us, threatening confinement unless one decision broke free from hesitation, shackling hearts entwined so closely yet separated by invisible barriers erected long ago. And then suddenly, the door swung open wide, revealing not only another presence but also consequences lurking just beyond sight, ready to crash down upon all involved without mercy, leaving behind nothing but shadows fading swiftly into oblivion.